I am Etienne Noumen. I'm the creator of AI Unraveled. I'm a senior software engineer in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And today, our guest is Lakshman Kaveti. Lakshman is a recognized leader in enterprise AI strategy and deployment with a deep track record of complex theoretical AI projects and converting them into measurable high impact business outcome for Fortune 500 companies. So his expertise is focused squarely on that crucial transition point, moving from a promising proof of concept to a financially optimized production grade system. Lakshman, your work focuses on what happened when the CEO asks, what's the ROI on this $10 million AI budget? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Etienne, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss one of the probably most asked question. What's the ROI? Glad to be here discussing about unlocking the business value, how to measure ROI. Happy to share all of our experiences, what we have been doing with our clients, so on and so forth. So glad to be here. And yeah, what is ROI is probably one of the most frequent question asked by most of my clients, executives. I would say that's actually one of the important question. If a client or business starts with that question, I think we are heading in the right direction because we are thinking about the outcomes, not just applying AI for the sake of applying AI. So glad to be here.
Thank you. All right. So before we start, like there's an expression that keeps being thrown out over there in the AI world. So I just want you to clarify it for our audience. Vibe revenue versus real revenue. Can you just give us a snippet of what vibe revenue is and compare it with real value in ROI when we talk about AI?
Yeah. So basically that touches upon like why are we doing even AI, right? Applying AI to unlock any value. Past couple of years, there was this phase where businesses were just applying AI without thinking too much. They were even spending a lot of money. I think that period has gone away. That mesh that you have on the left side
Mhm.
is slowly fading away. Now the board conversations are about what does it mean to the business? Will it generate profits? Will it generate new revenue streams? If it's a B2C kind of business, will it lead to a better customer experience, better customer lifetime value? These are the things that are good questions and a lot more measurable. And that's how I see the differentiation.
Mhm. Yeah. That's good. So, continuing in that, let's talk about setting the ROI benchmark, right? Because to talk about revenue, you need to have a benchmark. So, the ROI definition keeps shifting, right? So, our audience, yeah, after we had an episode about the vibe revenue, and that was skeptical about the financial sustainability of AI. So, in the past, ROI was measured by cost saving. Today, with massive compute and infrastructure costs, what is the most successful framework C-suite are using to define the return on AI?
Great question. Um, I think that there are two aspects here, right?
Mhm,
The compute costs, which is coming with AI GPUs, and a good framework that a C-suite and a board would use. It sounds obvious, but the businesses that at least I have worked with, there are common aspects to applying AI properly, which is having a good governance committee, which really understands the business, understands the technology when we are applying it.
mhm,
Having a good governance policies, which is also important, especially when you are trying to do certain things using responsible AI kind of principles. And then compiling the list of use cases. This is a subject matter knowledge that businesses hold. Could be consultants, but mostly that's the innate knowledge that businesses have. And if you marry that with a clearly defined outcome, That's where I think your main framework begins. And then coming to justifying the cost, at least my experience has been if a use case is good, usually cost kind of value outweighs the cost. So when we are doing any particularly LLM based applications, cost is typically measured in tokens. How much does a million tokens cost? And there are a lot of options available out there. There are models that cost you like 20 cents per million tokens, and there are models that cost you 40 cents per million tokens.
Mhm.
And I think it's about bringing that technical knowledge and a good foundational layer in marrying all of those plays a big role. In the cases where I have seen AI being applied properly, if you have a very well defined outcome
Mhm.
for a use case, do an EDA to really understand if that can be solved, and then go about experimenting with different models and see if token cost outweighs the value that it's going to generate, and based on that take decisions. And on top of that, often just based on the accuracy of the models, certain benchmarks that are published about the models, people tend to discard them, which kind of makes sense, but not always. There are techniques like human in the loop that you can bring into the mix in trying to balance them out, have the cost low, but also get the most benefit. And
Okay.
I've seen that apply very well in many use cases as well. So.
Mhm. And now that you've defined that, like, how do you set up that ROI benchmark, right? So there's this concept of where we say we're killing the POC graveyard. So, like, defining non-negotiable financial metrics for production and auditing LLM agent for measurable business value before deployment. Like, how do you set that up?
Yeah, another great topic. This is an area where we have been doing a lot of research. We internally have a center of excellence solutioning team doing a lot of research around this because this is one topic that stops applications from going to production as well because of not having a proper measure and auditability to go to the productions. First, financial metric that I would see is value per million tokens.
Hmm.
If it is more, then I think you have a base start point. And then, as I was stated earlier, if you have listed, I've worked with businesses where they had like more than 100 use cases listed and also have outcomes, desired outcomes listed for each one of them.
Hmm.
And trying to identify what is the highest value, low cost
Hmm.
application to choose with. I think those are the ones that I would go with. Beyond that, when it comes to auditing LLM agents, there is a lot of research being done and a lot of techniques available. There's a concept called evals, where you can measure not just the accuracy, but relevancy, context precisions, how toxic your responses are, how well defined your responses are,
Hmm.
so on and so forth. I can't quote like all the metrics because there are probably more than 40, 50 metrics out there already. And each of them are applicable for different use cases. If you are building a HR assistant, you have certain set of metrics that you want to choose versus if you are trying to build an agent for, let's say, legal assistant, where your accuracy is a lot more important. So you are looking for relevancy, faithfulness. Those are the metrics that you would go with.
Hmm.
So auditing, usually a lot of organizations do POCs, but
Hmm.
before going to production, have the synthetic data generated and identify the metrics, have a dashboard, and verify the outputs of the each input against this to see how good your responses are. And it's up to you to define how the dashboard and the quality gate should be. And by the way, we do have a product called AI Examine that exactly does that.
Yeah. And then staying on that segment, we always talk about the hidden cost of compute, right? So the question is like, how should a CFO properly budget for AI? knowing that usage can lead to unexpected GPU consumption. What strategies beyond cloud optimization can companies use to lock in predictable value creation when their underlying infrastructure costs are so volatile?
Yeah, so I know for CFOs,
Mm,
AI concept is kind of at times scary because you could go into that spiral where you end up spending a lot of money.
mm,
So I think starting with the list of use cases and desired outcomes is a first starting point. But that said, um, once you do a POC, having a proper observability
mhm,
of the application to really understand how it is being used is a good start point, because if your GPU consumption is going up because of adoption, that is not necessarily a bad thing. That probably is a good thing.
mhm.
As long as when you start your use case, you are going with this the metric that I just made up, like value per million tokens. If that is more than one, meaning if that ratio is more than one, I think that's a good starting point. That
Okay.
said,
Mm,
technically, there are a lot more other techniques.
mhm,
So there are varied set of LLMs available. We are a Microsoft partner. We use Microsoft ecosystem a lot. In Azure Foundry, you have more than 11,000 LLM models available, and each one of them costs different. So
mhm.
identifying the right one is going to be important. So for CFOs to make sure that there has been thought put in to ensure that the right model is picked, I think that's where their intervention is required.
Yeah.
And we
Mhm,
also were in situations where there is a defined usage. In that cases, I've seen people kind of have GPUs internally and start to use SLMs. Again, I don't recommend going in that direction. That is only a good direction if there is a regulation compliance and you know that there is a heavy GPU consumption for prolonged period of time and you know what the scale is. But long story short, there are a lot of techniques that one could apply.
yeah, and that brings us to our next segment, where we need to talk about, how do you unlock the productivity and value, right? So yeah, we always hear about the 10 times productivity myth. So I want you to expand on that a little bit. Like, where are you seeing quantifiable game-changing productivity gains right now? Is it in specialized roles like R&D, legal, or horizontal functions like customer service, HR? Can you please provide one specific example of an industry where you've seen a measurable 2 times or greater increase in a core business metric using AI?
Sure, I would love to. So I want to say to start with across the board, whether
Mhm,
it is a small, medium business or a fortune company, every sector, most of the departments have been affected or can leverage AI to their benefit. But that said, the good use cases that I have seen where it yielded results are in legal function, HR function,
mhm,
customer service, customer support, manufacturing, retail, e-commerce are a couple of sectors where I have seen it applied very well. As far as a specific example, um, Gen AI particularly has been used mostly to improve the productivity.
mhm,
And if it integrated very well into the operations, it can be of tremendous help. So there is a particular use case where we have helped. There is this website, it's an e-commerce website, and the content changes very frequently, and someone has been doing it manually
mhm,
because they capture the information, update all the products, do all those things. So
mhm,
we automated with a human in the loop technique, and that reduced the 3,000 hours of manual effort to less than 800 hours of manual effort, like 600 hours of manual effort. There it goes. Like if you take even $25 per hour as an average rate, you
Mm,
probably have reduced 75K per month to, I want to say, 15, 20K. Don't quote me on the math. I'm not good at doing math in the air. But, and the cost of running that application was roughly around 5K. That also addresses some of the compute cost questions that you asked earlier. But yeah, like this, there are a couple other use cases where you can quantifiably define what you are trying to achieve. So when you're starting the use cases and say, hey, I want to apply this and reduce 1,000 manual hours every month, I think that's a
mm,
good starting point. That's a very measurable thing. So when you do EDA, exploratory data analysis, you can compare against it and confirm whether it can be achieved or not.
mhm. So you said something there about human in the loop, and I want us to get a little bit deeper into it because that's very important, right? So like it's a mistake to try and fully automate complex workflow. I've seen it myself. Like for example, the
Yeah.
podcast that's created, I cannot do it without having a human in the loop. I have a lot of AI automation in it, but the
Mhm.
when you start doing it completely automated, you have a lot of the hallucination. I just don't see any way. Like it's better when there is a human in the loop. So the highest value often comes from augmentation. Can you describe a successful example of a human in the loop AI workflow where the human's role, like it can be auditing, refining, or steering the agent, actually became the main driver of the ROI? Like how do you measure the productivity gain of a human being guided by AI versus a fully autonomous system?
Yes. So the use case that I mentioned earlier, the updating information on the website. So when we did the POC, it came out with little over 90% accuracy. And that's not good enough. So you don't want to see something on the website with wrong verbiage or grammar mistakes or anything of that sort or incorrect information.
Mm,
So AI is not 100% right.
yeah.
So all we had to do was pull that information for someone to quickly review it. So now instead of writing, they are reviewing.
Mm,
So there it goes. That's how we were able to bring 80% efficiency.
mm,
And the another use case, this is more into the manufacturing, trying to reduce the downtime. So anytime there is an equipment is not working in optimal fashion against the performance curve, there is intervention required. And you could automate that. But if that was for a reason, it might have detrimental impact on what is being done. So what we have done is identify the anomaly, look at the documentation and all the things that I have done in past, make recommendations to operators instead of doing it ourselves. So I think AI is great, but taking it to fully automated stage is not the way to go about. It's a very good prescriptive technology at this moment. So marrying that prescriptive technology to automation, I think human in the loop plays a very big role.
definitely. Okay, that brings us to segment three, which is very important for corporation, right? Governance, risk,
Yes.
and the future. So I want us to talk about ROI of risk mitigation. So our listener, they are highly concerned with cyber attacks and liability. What is the
Mhm.
ROI of an auditable architecture like RAG over a high risk, opaque fine-tuning approach? Like, how do you sell the C-suite on spending money to reduce legal or compliance risk and expense rather than directly boosting revenue?
Right. So the first thing that we would do is um, once you are done validating the idea that it would generate the results, having a red teaming idea concept, right? Like I have going with this ethical hacking kind of approach, trying to do all the UPIA user prompt injection attacks, oversharing techniques to try and break it yourselves as much as possible, right? And how You can also use these observability techniques, like you can integrate most of the agents now with open telemetry to really understand what is happening, trying to trace an input to the output and see if something is happening. Lately, Azure Foundry has introduced newer technologies, concepts where you can start to intervene if something were to happen. Those things are very much important. So I think that peripheral aspects of observability, setting up proper security guardrails, implementing responsible AI principles, although some of those are concepts, but it helps you guide looking at whether the responses are fair, unbiased, whether there are any toxic responses, things like that. All of this will help make sure you don't run into any legal issues down the road or leaving a bad taste to the end user, that might hurt your brand reputation. So I would say having kind of red teaming and implementing responsible AI, have your CISO work in tandem with your AI engineers, data scientists when they are developing. These are all the good techniques for you to make sure that you are not at risk.
Thank you for that. And our next question is always the long-term play. So, if you are advising a CEO today on where to spend their AI budget, knowing that the investment must still be delivering measurable return in 3, 5 years, should they prioritize building proprietary data moats, which are of course expensive, or focus solely on agentic workflow using off-the-shelf models, which are cheaper today? Where is the better long-term ROI?
Um, Great topic. I don't think them as mutually exclusive things. So,
Mhm.
modes can be a competitive advantage for a business when you have all the centralized, the data is structured very specific to you, that is
Mhm.
very kind of private to you and secure to you. So, you definitely have a competitive advantage. But what
Mhm.
modes also do is help you get the quality data. So AI agent can be done with all the best principles in the world, but if your data that you are feeding it to it is not right, I think that's where you will lose the battle. So I think, at least my perspective, I don't see them as mutually exclusive thing. I think they can go in tandem. Experimentation is required. Trying to
Mhm.
go after building more kind of smaller modes, more segmented. Lately, what we do is trying to build a small semantic model kind of concept where you identify a subsection or subdomain and build a data mode just for that, and then go about applying AI on top of that. So instead of going big bang, I would do it in an iterative style, iterative fashion, but bringing all the data from various systems into a mode, I think can be a huge value add as well. So although it's a vague answer, I think they are not mutually exclusive according to me, but having them do in tandem is going to be helpful. One other thing that I would say is have a thorough AI platform that brings all the aspects like security, observability, quality measure, quality gates, etc. These all can make you kind of give you a very sophisticated system where you can rinse and repeat more AI agents for your
Perfect.
business.
Yeah. Thank you. So another question on governance, mostly like an advice, like for the CEO listening who is under pressure to show measurable ROI from their Q4 AI budget, what is the single most impactful action they can take this week to transition their AI narrative from experimentation to enterprise value?
Right. Firstly, I think it starts with asking the question,
Mhm.
what does this mean? Like when someone embarks this AI project or trying to write an AI agent, what defining the outcome, trying to understand what the outcome is and clearly communicating is a good start.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I would highly advise is many a times I have seen when you're working with a specific set of data, small sample of data, testing against simple inputs and expecting the similar responses, everything works great.
Mhm.
So usually it is sometimes projected that POC is kind of a finish line. We just need to add components here and there and take it to production. But in reality, that's not how it is. In reality, POC is probably a validation and a start line, not the finished line.
Mhm.
So that's I think is going to be helpful, and have a platform. And you don't have to build a platform before you start an agent. If you are looking for results quickly, understand what are all the components required to take it to production. Because 70%, I think there are many percentages quoted in the market now, but good many of the POCs don't end up in production. So having that knowledge, what is required, what is your end goal, how do you get from A to Z? And by the way, POC is not Z, probably it's maybe D. So knowing that I think is going to be helpful. So having that ecosystem is going to be very, very helpful for CEOs.
All right. Thank you, Lakshman. That's all the question I have for you. Is there anything else you want to share with our listener? Like anything that I don't know, I forgot to mention, something you want to talk about, your organization?
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. Great topic.
Mhm.
I think the phase of experimentation and using AI just as a playground has gone away. I think now it's about applying AI
Mhm.
to yield good results. And if I compare, especially in the context of GenAI, not this traditional supervised and unsupervised machine learning algorithms, there is a lot of ecosystem available. I think trying to get educated in that area is going to be helpful, even for the business leaders. Knowing the possibilities is going to be helpful. And we, as a technology consultants, we help that bridge that gap, trying to marry the business and the outcomes. There is this technology consulting that is required. That's where we bring the value to the table. So it was an amazing conversation with you,
Yeah.
and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for your time today. That was great. And yeah, let's stay in touch. I'll let you know when we are live. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye.